This is the long-awaited Sony Xperia 1 Mark II. Now, if you're thinking that the name implies an improved version of last year's Xperia 1, well, prepare to be amazed. This is an impressive update. With an overhauled camera system, a new Camera Pro app, wireless and fast charging, a new 4,000 mAh battery, well, there is a lot of cool stuff here, and we're going to break it all down in this video. Welcome back, everybody. This is the brand new Sony Xperia 1 Mark II, which is a follow-up to last year's Xperia 1, which I was very impressed with. Sony were very gracious enough to send me a pre-production model that I've been using for about a week and a half now, and I want to wait and do a full review once the final software has been released on here, but I'm really impressed so far, and I want to give you a full breakdown of the feature set and everything that we're dealing with in this phone. The first thing that you're going to notice is that Sony retained the physical appearance. So the phone is still built around the 6.5-inch 21:9 aspect ratio 4K HDR OLED display. The phone is still the same thickness as the Xperia 1, but the edges are less tapered, and so it gives it a little more of a boxy feel, which I actually prefer. On the back of the phone, you're going to notice the cameras have been moved from the center over to the side of the body. I'm going to get into the cameras in just a minute. There have been some really nice upgrades to the camera modules, and this phone is going to appeal to a lot of photographers. Something I want to mention about all the sample images that I'm showing you in here, a lot of them are straight out of camera, some of them are edited. One of my favorite ways to work on any smartphone is to use Lightroom Mobile, and if you have a Lightroom Creative Cloud account that has any storage for sync, this is great because I can upload and start to edit photos directly from my phone. They will sync up in the cloud, and then they're on my desktop and in my Lightroom catalog when I come back to the studio. And I tend to use my presets, and if you haven't seen my preset packs, I have two of them released now. I released the first one last year. Ted Forbes preset pack number 2 is now available not only for Lightroom but also Capture One. If you're in Lightroom Mobile though and you have a Creative Cloud account, you can sync these via the Lightroom CC app. I will leave a link below and you guys should check them out. We had a configuration that was 4 buttons plus fingerprint sensor on the side of the original Xperia 1. This has now been simplified quite a bit. The fingerprint reader and power button are now combined, and this leaves us with the volume up and down rocker and a dedicated camera key, which is probably my favorite thing on here. You can half press this to engage autofocus, and then when you fully press it, it takes the picture. This button can also be configured to open either the native camera app or the new Camera Pro app as shortcuts when the screen is locked. So let's talk about hardware. We're dealing with Snapdragon 865 with 8 GB of RAM. It ships with 256 GB of storage, and this is also expandable with an additional micro SD card if you want to put that in, which can be inserted alongside the SIM card. And the Xperia 1 Mark II is now IP65-68 certified, water resistant. Now, one of my complaints with the original Xperia 1 was battery life. You just didn't have a very strong battery in it. It was a 3,300 mAh battery, but it's driving a huge screen. We also had a lack of wireless charging. Now, in a flagship phone, I know that's a little bit nitpicky, but at the price that it was going for, that was a big deal. Now, Sony have obviously been listening to what we've all been complaining about. We now have a 4,000 mAh battery that supports 21-watt fast charging as well as wireless charging. Sony has a custom UI layer that is built on top of Android, but unlike most other manufacturers, there's not a graphic layer. So you're going to get a pretty pure Android experience, but with some additional apps, as well as features such as SideSense, which allows you to tap on either side of the screen for quick access to applications and functions, and also the Cinema Pro and Photo Pro apps. If you're really into audio, the Xperia 1 Mark II features 2 front-facing speakers and is one of the few phones to actually retain a 3.5mm 4-pole headphone jack. The phone also features AI-based upscaling technology for giving audio a wider dynamic range and reproduction from compressed files, like what you're going to get when you're downloading stuff from the internet. Combining their DSEE Ultimate technology with Dolby Atmos, this is one of the best phones on the market for an incredible listening experience. Now, I know that most of you came here to hear me talk about the cameras on this phone. I think you're really going to be impressed. So we still have a triple camera array, but everything is pretty much been overhauled. The main lens is a 24mm equivalent f1.7 with now a larger 1/1.7 inch sensor. Now, this sensor still has a 12 megapixel output, but the larger surface is going to allow for a much larger pixel pitch, giving you 50% better light sensitivity, which basically results in much better low light performance. The sensor itself is an Exmor RS stacked CMOS sensor design, similar to what's used in Sony Alpha's high-end cameras, such as the A9 or the A9 II. This gives you serious speed advantage over the quad Bayer sensors used in most flagship smartphones. Full sensor readout on this phone can be done in 10 milliseconds versus about 32 on a quad Bayer 12 megapixel sensor. Basically, the result is extremely fast performance for both autofocus as well as burst shooting. The main camera is capable of shooting 20 frames per second while making autofocus and exposure adjustments 60 times per second. Now, the cool part about this is even if you don't shoot a lot of action, you don't shoot a lot of burst shots, autofocus and exposure are very accurate in single shot mode as well because they're being updated 60 times a second. We've also got an integrated time of flight sensor, which now assists the dual pixel phase detection autofocus that is on the sensor, giving you a camera that is truly depth aware. The camera can use the 247 phase detection points on the sensor with the 43,200 points on the time of flight sensor. This data combined with Sony's AI technology will improve subject recognition as well as the speed and accuracy of what you're doing. So why is this important? Well, the trend with smartphones right now is pretty much following in what the example that Google and Huawei and a few other companies have set, where we're using a lot of computational imaging that is going to take what can be done with the camera and fix it in post-production. Now, what I really love that Sony have done with this is they're taking a very different approach. What they're trying to do is speed things up in the capture side of things so that you're going to get the shot right in camera and you're going to have a lot less to do with post-processing later. And I think this is a real advantage to Sony. It's kind of pretty much the opposite of the way everybody else is going, and I'm really liking the results that I'm getting with this camera. We also have an ultra-wide 16mm camera module as well as a 70mm telephoto camera module. So the idea is that we've got kind of the holy trinity covered in zoom lenses from 16mm all the way up to 200mm if you combine digital zoom. Digital zoom is excellent on this phone, by the way. It's probably one of the best that I've seen. And this is hard to do because when you're digitally zooming in on something, you're having to create details and information that actually doesn't exist. That's what makes it challenging. The standard and telephoto cameras both feature optical image stabilization, and of course, all three cameras feature dual pixel phase detection AF points. All three of the lenses feature Zeiss T coating, and hats off to Sony for actually taking the lenses seriously. Everything is sharp with excellent contrast, and the color rendition and consistency from camera module to camera module is probably the best on any phone I've reviewed this year. It's as good as the iPhone 11. This system is very impressive. Another nice addition to the phone is the new Photo Pro app. So in the Xperia 1, we saw the Cinema Pro dedicated video app, and now it has a sibling for still photography. So the Photo Pro app is extremely well thought out. It has one of the best and most gorgeous UIs that I've seen on any phone. Everything is very intuitive. It's really easy to get to. You get full manual or auto control over every feature in the camera system, and autofocus is, as I've mentioned, very impressive, but you also have touch to focus in AIS or even full manual focus override. The phone also features human as well as animal eye AF. This means it detects the eye on either humans or animals, depending on what you're shooting. This is just like you see in Sony's interchangeable lens cameras. One other thing that we've been promised about the Xperia 1 Mark II is camera raw support. Now, this is coming. It will not be available initially. It's not available in the version that I've got. It will come out in a software release in the coming months. I don't know exactly when, and unfortunately, it's kind of non-committal. I don't know if it's for all three cameras or just the main camera. But either way, just at least having it on the main camera would be so amazing. This is just a little preview, a little taste. I wanted you to see some features on this phone. I've had a lot of fun shooting with it. I want to do a full review, but I also want to wait till I have a full production software installed on this phone. So that's kind of what I'm waiting on for that. I would also like to do some comparisons with other flagships. If there's something you would like to see, please leave me a comment below and I will get to it. So pre-ordering on this phone starts June 1st. Retail price is going to be $11.99 US, and the shipping begins on July 24th, and if you order in the first week, I believe, hold on. All pre-orders by June 28th will receive the acclaimed Sony WF-1000X-M3 noise-canceling earbuds. Headphones sound like a license plate, but in all seriousness, if you've never checked out the X-M3 earbuds, I don't really talk a lot about that on a photography channel. They are pretty amazing. It's about a $230 pair of headphones, so it makes it a pretty good deal. Highly recommended. You guys need to check this out. I will catch you in the next video. Until then, later.